So we're just going to jump right into it here. Thank you all for making time today to attend the session. We are being recorded, and so this will go up on our Boston Debate League YouTube page as well as part of our Coach PD series. This is the first in that series, and it's replacing some of the past things that we've done. So we're not doing a crash course this year. We're going to be sort of expanding on a number of sessions from the summer coach training. And so for people who either, attended that or didn't, this should hopefully provide a little bit of new insight. And just a reminder on, what you can do at this point in the season. And we'll be continuing the series as we go to try to offer timely professional development. Again, it's totally optional for coaches, so we would love to hear as much as you can make it, but also we know that you got other things going on, so we want to offer topics and sessions that will be interesting and useful to folks. And so we're starting with recruitment because it's about to be that time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and we'll do some introductions, and then we'll jump into the session. Can people just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen okay? Awesome, great. So again, this session is based off of the Coach Camp session, Why Debate, Getting in the Door and Recruiting Those Who Don't Self-Select. We're going to be talking about that and other recruitment strategies today. Our objectives for this session will be to develop a sense of why students participate in debate, to inform our recruitment strategies. We want coaches to leave knowing what BDL, what resources BDL has available for recruitment, and we'll talk about some common barriers for recruitment as well, how to address those. Our agenda, we're going to do some introductions. We'll talk about why students join the team, who to recruit and how, strategies. We'll set a goal. We'll talk about our resources, and then we'll have a Q&A with any remaining time. I think my goal in particular is for this not to take the full hour, to really leave some time for questions at the end, and make it as efficient a session as possible. And then we'll have a quick exit ticket for you as you're leaving. And this will be super short, 30 seconds, just giving us feedback on today's session and a chance to tell us what future professional development you'd be interested in having. So with that, in the chat, please share your name, school, and an example of a successful recruitment experience. The recruitment experience can be debate related or not, and it can be something about how you were recruited to participate in something or how you recruited someone. So again, if it's debate related, that's great. If not, that's fine too. And we just want to know who you are and what successful recruitment has looked like for you in the past. And then once people have shared, we'll take a couple of volunteers to share out.
Hey, Roger, how are you, buddy?
Hey, Scott. I just am about to talk about you, actually. I just shared in the chat one of the successful personalized invitation sort of thing that I've seen you all do in the past. So we're talking about sharing name, school, and an example of a successful recruitment that you've been a part of, whether recruiting someone or being recruited in the past. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want me to expand on that, or?
Sure, yeah, this would be a great time to do that. Go for it.
Yeah, so we
And if you want to
usually go through.
just introduce yourself first.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't know if you'd introduced me already. But, my name's Scott Weaver. I am a co-coach with Val Gouveia, who cannot make it today, but she sends her love. She had there's a lot of meetings, obviously, it's the beginning of school, so she has a meeting she had to go to. But coaching now, I guess this is our sixth season, I want to say.
Yeah.
I'm looking at those nice five-year plaques you gave us. So yeah, this is our sixth season, and we do things. We started off with just eighth graders our first couple of years, just because we were not super concerned, but we were mildly concerned about traveling into the city. We have a pretty long hike into Boston at times for different debates. But we've recently expanded that into eighth, seventh, and sixth grade. And we don't really proactively go after sixth grade, but we do have some teachers that reach out to us. But the eighth graders and the seventh graders are in the are in the same hallway. So they do a lot of things together, recess, lunch, and everything. So our comfort level got a little bit stronger. And these last few years, we've had a lot of success with both those grade levels. We do a tremendous number of students. We have a tremendous amount of students usually at the beginning of the year. Based on our work requirements, we do end up losing a handful of those students. But what's been successful, and I know it's not the end of the school year, but it maybe could be something that you could do at the beginning of the school year, is we have we basically bring them all into the auditorium, the entire seventh grade class and eighth grade class, and we let the current debaters put together like a PowerPoint slide and present to their class, and try to gain some interest that way. And I'm sure Roger will laugh here, because after all of that stuff that we do, it kind of works. But the other thing is the food and the after school, having a chance to have some nice snacks, and we do team dinners, and we try to build like a real nice sense of community. And I think a lot of the students, at least from East Somerville, really like that. But I think the parents, we've had generations of kids, not generations, but we've had a lot of siblings join. Just from the previous experience of maybe an older sibling that had a really good interaction with us, or a really good experience being part of the debate. So I don't know if Roger, if I'm missing anything, or if anybody has any questions. Or I don't find it to be tremendously unique, but that's really kind of the pitch, is sort of being part of a team, and having there's a basketball team, and there's a soccer team, and there's a football team, and all that. And we're a debate team, and we're a debate team for the entire year. I guess the other thing that maybe I could throw in there is we do go to admin throughout the year, and we do get the students privileges, such as before a tournament, we'll take an entire Thursday, and the students will not go to class. The students will be throughout the building, or they'll be in a classroom that's an empty classroom that's been set up for them, and they're able to not go to their regular classes for the day, and they're just fully focused on preparing for the debate. Now, the argument of missing a math class, I mean, I'm a math teacher. Obviously, we want them to get as much math time as possible, but the argument obviously is they're doing something academic, they're doing something above and beyond. And as you know, if you've gone to a Saturday tournament, they're basically taking on a 6th day of class. And so we've really never gotten any pushback from superintendents or principals, and we've had a few principals over the last few years, and they've all been really favorable to that approach. And interestingly, if you're a Boston teacher, your superintendent is our former superintendent. So she is very well aware of Boston Debate League. She brought Boston Debate League to Somerville. And I think if a request like that went in, I don't think that she would be shocked or surprised. If somebody did request changing a group of students' schedules, here and there throughout the school year.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for sharing, Scott. I love those, suggestions, giving debaters the authority to present to, their peers and giving them a platform to do so. It can be done in a bunch of different ways. A lot of schools do, kickoff assemblies or, recruitment fairs, or another time where you can get direct student to student opportunities, and giving them additional things that might get them excited, right? Food at practices is just going to give them, or recruitment events is going to give them that much more reason to be there if they're on the fence. And letting them know, hey, if you're on the debate team, we get to skip school every once in a while to get ready for debate tournaments, or leave a little bit earlier to go on a field trip for a debate tournament.
Yeah, that's what we did last year. We were near assembly. We let them, they left at lunch one day, which is 1 o'clock. They got out, whatever. They got out an hour early, but we went over to Shake Shack, and we did like a Shake Shack meal. And, then we all jumped on the train there and went into the city. So and everybody, it's one of those things where after years, students start realizing what's happening. So it's not like maybe you're going to get instant gratification from doing this type of stuff, but you build up a track record of, oh yeah, I remember that, or some of the younger grades. So sorry to interrupt you.
No, absolutely. I think that it's definitely good to have that. Once you build in something, to have it going consistently, so the students know the expectation. Even before they join, and start to hear the rumors about the cool stuff the debate team does. So, yeah. Anyone else? And a lot of people shared in the chat. Thank you. One thing that they were successfully recruited for, or helped successfully, they used effectively to recruit others. What would be great if someone would be willing to, either in the chat or unmute yourself, expand on what specifically about that recruitment effort made it successful for you, right? So I see people who are successfully recruited to become debate coaches. And I see people who were successfully recruited to become debaters. I see one about college recruitment, one about extra credit. So does anyone want to expand a little bit on what about those past recruitment efforts were particularly effective in getting you to participate?
The opportunity to start something new and engage the students. I was solicited through a email for our middle school team, and just happened to be the first respondent.
There you go. Yeah, and I think that same thing can apply to joining the debate team, right? Especially if you're a new school with a new program, or not. Just that opportunity to be like, hey, we're starting something new. You get to be a part of this, and guide it and help contribute to how it is run. I think is great.
One of the things I think is interesting, Roger, maybe to consider, especially for coaches, recruiting coaches.
Yeah.
I'm a math teacher, and the only reason I got recruited was I saw Mary Skipper over the summer one year when I was teaching summer school. And I told her I wanted to teach the Constitution. I said, give me 3 math classes and let me teach the Constitution. And I don't think she ever would have known I had a passion for, for history, and had for U.S. history and history. And, just because I'm a math teacher, right? And you just stereotypically think, oh, he must be into STEM, and he must be into like the things that maybe typically a math teacher or science teacher would be. And, that might be, I don't know if that's the case. When you're recruiting for coaches, that you're maybe primarily looking at teachers that teach history, or teachers that maybe teach ELA. I do think there might be a lot of souls out there like me that do math all day, I kind of like the fact that after school is not extra math help. It's actually doing something that's entirely different than what I do during the school day.
Yeah, I think that absolutely can be a big draw. And I think, as debate coaches as well, right? Like, being uh, in a debate team can be, if you want it to be that way, it could be like, teaching one more class, but it also can be very different from that. It can be a club or activity that's a very different sort of experience from a regular class for your students. And so that can be a huge appeal, both the coaches and students. And I think, you know, trying to dig in and figure out what your students like outside of classes can be a good way to effectively recruit them. They may, love sports because they like really being on a team. And, so selling debate as another team opportunity where they get to, win trophies and, train and compete and try and get better at that, that could be a selling point, for example. So great. And thanks, Jasmine, as well, for sharing in the chat that your colleague found and emphasized your strengths specifically and talked about how it would help you grow as a teacher. I think that same kind of thing can be applied to debaters, right? That emphasizing the strengths and what you see in a student, why you're inviting them to join the team, and how it could help them grow personally can be a big draw. As you'll see in a couple of slides, the number one reason by student surveys, so by their own feedback, that students join the team is because someone else recommended them and said, I think you'd be good at debate, or I think you should try debate. Most students don't necessarily just decide they want to do it on their own. Someone else suggests it to them. All right, we're going to keep moving right along. So we're going to hear directly from a couple of debaters here, and I'm going to share my audio. So if, let's see. Share some. Yes. Okay. If you can just, I'm going to play the video. If you can just give me a quick thumbs up and let me know that you can hear it when it starts.
I feel like one of the reasons why I joined debate was because I really wanted to find my voice.
Can everyone hear that okay? Great. Okay. I'm going to just start right from the beginning. Here we go.
I feel like one of the reasons why I joined debate was because I really wanted to find my voice, or I wanted to find a better way to use my voice. I've always felt like I didn't really know how to express myself. I didn't really know how to say what I would like or express my opinions. But after I joined debate and with my coach's help, I finally learned how to express that better.
I decided to join the debate team because I knew that it would better my public speaking skills, and it was a good opportunity for me to learn more about topics that I might have been interested in and I didn't really know that much about. I also was able to learn about other people's opinions on interesting topics. Also, this is obviously a great place for socializing and hanging out with your friends. And plus, there's trophies.
Yeah, so those are just two students from Helen Sullivan at the Hurley's debate team. And, you can see they talked a lot about the socializing, the community that's built around debate, the individual opportunities for them, and of course the trophies. And even I know the second blurry video is a little blurry, but that student was wearing a medal around their neck as well. So feeling like they can excel is great. So here are, as promised, the top reasons why, according to students, they join the debate team. So I know a lot of times the classic way that you might pitch recruitment, or it might get pitched to students, revolves a lot around the last bullet point, looking good on a college application. But we found that a lot more students say that they joined the debate team because of one of these other things, right? Someone asked them to join and they got a personal invite. Someone told them they'd be good at debate. Someone believed in them. Their friends participate already, or they join as a group of friends. Food, practice and tournaments and recruitment events. And again, for all the schools who are here, a big benefit of being a BDL partner school is that team budget. We give you money spend on things that help the team. So, getting pizza at your kickoff event at the start of the school year can be a really good use of that, funding. And then trophies, of course, we have trophies for individual students and teams and whole schools at all levels of debate at every tournament. And there are also some year-long awards that we have given out in the past as well. A lot of people want to be part of a team or community, and that can be particularly tricky to find, right? Some schools have a lot of clubs, but a lot of schools don't. A lot of schools, the only opportunity to be on a team is a sport. And so there may be a lot of students who are looking for something else. And I think this can be especially true at the middle school level or for the smaller high schools, that there just are not a ton of other teams to be on. So it's a really great way for a student to be a part of a community and have some fun at school outside of a sport. Another great reason, they like to argue, so that's why they join debate, and they just wanted to get better at that. And then finally, some do join because it looks good on a college application as well. Any others that we missed, if you want to drop in the chat, if there are one or any other things that Jody mentioned one earlier, for example, that students will join because of extra credit. I think that's another great one that should go on the list. A lot of coaches either themselves or get other colleagues on board with offering extra credit for certain things, like going to debate tournaments. When I was coaching, for example, Miss Barrows, our history teacher, would offer an A on a test grade as an average for a student who went to a full debate tournament. That was an equivalent amount of work in her mind. And so it didn't necessarily replace a whole grade or turn a failing student into an A student, but it gave them a reward for all their hard academic work. Yeah, definitely a huge boost in self-confidence as well. Yeah, a lot of folks will talk about how it helped them gain self-confidence. All right, we'll keep going, keep things moving. So who should you target with recruitment? Everyone, but specifically students who like to argue or want to challenge, students who wouldn't select debate for themselves, students who aren't heavily involved in other clubs and might benefit from being in the debate community. And who else? Who might we be forgetting? So if people can put in the chat, who would you target for debate, or who are you thinking about targeting for debate this year? And I'll give people a minute just to write in the chat. What are other groups of students or other individual reasons why you might target someone to join debate? All right, so not seeing any immediately. I'm just gonna keep going on this because I think we have a little bit more info that will be a draw here. So, again, all these slides will be available afterwards in our coach resources folder for the year. There's a separate subfolder on coach PDs, and again, so that'll be the best place to come back to some of these things. How do you persuade potential debaters? So how do we get them in the door? You can invite students from your class. You can ask teachers at your school to invite students directly and ask if they're able to offer extra credit. You can ask admins for time at whole school events, like Scott suggested earlier. You can do outreach to parents. And we have an example of a info session that you could use. So I'm going to jump over to this one for a second. All right. Are folks able to see this updated slideshow, the intro to debate slideshow? I don't know, Douglas, if you can you see that?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, awesome. So here's an example. Again, part of what we are trying to do is make your coaching lives easier. So Helen graciously shared what she uses for debate recruitment. So feel free to make a copy of this whole presentation and use it to guide your own debate kickoff events. We want the info sessions to be effective, and we don't want you to have to recreate the wheel. BDL also has a totally separate set of slides in English and Spanish for recruitment sessions, and that's in our resource folder that we'll cover in just a minute. But you can see in Helen's intro to debate, she talks about giving a welcome, asks debaters about where they've debated before to give some real world context to students who already are debating with their parents or their siblings or their teachers and not realizing it yet. What does debate look like? Gives the basic info on the team, talks about the benefits of joining the team. There's a video explaining what policy debate is. That's a little less than right around 5 minutes long. And then gives debaters an opportunity to ask questions. And then they jump into a game, this or that, and they pick between chocolate or vanilla, day or night, and basically just get students in that very first meeting debating right away. It can be the, not super in-depth, not a lot of evidence, just get them talking, get them having fun, arguing with each other, and then they'll, be sold on the higher order, deeper debate skills later. And then there's the example sharing the resolution. This is more about getting introduced to the topic, maybe getting students excited about it. So you can see this is from a past year, but the current year's resolution about income inequality, I think, would certainly get a lot of students generating ideas about how they might engage with the topic. And that's just one potential way to introduce debate to your students at a recruitment session. So again, at the very least, you can leave here with a resource for what you might do. And yes, might have missed, but the slides will be available in the resource folder that you will share soon. Yes, they're already on our coach website in our lessons for this year, 2023-24 lessons folder. And I'm actually, just to make life even a little bit easier, I will just, for everyone who's here today, I'm going to put this link right in the chat right now. As well. So if you're already thinking about planning your recruitment, you can jump right to the slides and go from there. You can also link to Helen's slides. All right, great. A couple more things before I get into what resources BDL offers, and then the Q&A, which we'll wrap up with. So framing. When we talk about recruiting for debate, BDL has goals, and we want you to set goals for your team as well. So Boston Debate League, one of our goals is to grow the number of debaters who engage annually from 350 to 600. Right now, we're around 350 students who come to enough programming that we consider them engaged. And our plan over the next few years is to get that up to 600 students. So a lot of that does fall on the individual schools. We have not added a ton of schools. We're not making a huge push necessarily to add a whole lot of new schools and get debaters that way. So we're hoping to grow and strengthen the partnerships we do have, which is why we're so invested in helping you all recruit at your schools. And we'll probably add a few schools over the next few years as well, but by and large, we're committed to the partners we have, and we want to grow those schools to a reasonable amount that is sustainable for your school. We also want to engage a representative percentage of young men and women of color and native Spanish speakers from the school communities that we serve, right? So we want your debate teams essentially to look like your school population. We don't want it to be only the high achieving academic students. We don't want it to be, we don't want it to be only young women or only young men on the team. We want a good mix. We want everyone at your school to be thinking debate can be for them. And then at the school level, so just, you don't have to answer this. You can put it in the chat if you want to, but we want you to at least think about and brainstorm how many students do you want on your team this year, right? What would be a good number of students, for your team? The average team in BDL is like 8 to 12 regularly participating students. That means coming to practice regularly, coming to tournaments. We certainly have had bigger teams. We certainly have had smaller teams, but we think that, 8 to 12 is a good size that's pretty manageable. And our aim is to try and get schools up to about 15 students, because we think once you get to a 15, you can really withstand a lot of turnover, whether it's a lot of students graduating or, if a lot of students are participating in some other activity, that getting up to 15 allows your team to better weather the different changes and challenges you might come across. Yeah, and then our second question is thinking about, again, just brainstorm for yourself, what initial groups come to mind for recruitment. So, if you are a teacher, how are you going to recruit the students in your classes to potentially join? Or, like Scott said, when they first started their debate team, they started with 8th graders, right? That was a targeted intentional decision. And now they have a plan for how they recruit students from other grades. So thinking, especially if you're a brand new team, or a team that's building up from, a smaller team in the past, think intentionally about who you're going to try and target. It can be difficult to try and recruit the whole school all at once. So, yeah. Great. And then the last thing I wanted to go through was some resources, and then we'll have time for Q&A right at the end. So, these are the BDL recruitment resources, and this is what we provide. Every single one of you has a program manager assigned to your school, and that email actually went out at the end of last week explaining who was the program manager for each school. You have already heard from or will be hearing soon from your program manager to set up a meeting for the year. And that program manager should be the main person you lean on for your recruitment efforts, right? You can email them and talk about like, hey, can we talk about recruitment? Can I plan some, initial practices with you? Can we talk about a strategy? Can you visit a parent night? We have an activity fair at my school. What sorts of things, whatever sort of things you think would be helpful with recruitment at your school, your program manager from BDL is there to help out. That's a big part of what we do. And we also, again, if you have direct questions about where resources are, rather than inventing them yourself from scratch, we probably have, a good sense of anything that you might want to send out. We can give you a template. We can give you access to other things that other coaches have sent in the past, again, in English and Spanish. And, we have a variety of ones, examples from high school teams, examples from middle school teams. So again, those sorts of things we can share what other coaches have done with you to get you excited about, to get students excited about debate. And a lot of those things end up in our resource folder, which I'm just going to show here now. So in our 2023-24 resource folder, in the recruitment and marketing section, we have a whole bunch of things. We have debate team pitch PowerPoints. So Helen's we just showed, and then here's a separate one that's available in English and Spanish. We have flyers and posters. We have a whole series of editable flyers. This one here is particularly nice because it links to a Canva flyer that anyone can type in and edit for the details of their own debate team. And we have student created posters as well. We have letter/email templates. And these, so again, these are direct. We have 4 different ones in here. Direct student invite slips, an example email you can send to your school leader to talk to them about how they can support recruitment, an email that you can send to your fellow teachers to talk to them about how they can support recruitment, and one that you can send to families. Again, that can be printed out and sent home in, early season mailings, or you can hand that out at parent night, or if your school has a parent newsletter. Again, all these are great places for that. We have a postcard about debate available in English and Spanish, and this is answers frequently asked questions that parents and students might have. And then finally, we have some video testimonials. So as you saw earlier, we have, what students, what brought them to debate. These 3 videos cover why students should join debate. 2 are from alumni, and 1 is from a current coach. So that's our recruitment folder. All right, and then last thing before we get into the Q&A is going to be just a suggested timeline for recruitment. So if you haven't started recruiting yet, that's okay. Some of you are just getting back to school. A lot of you haven't even started school yet, which is totally fine. So we recommend starting early September, meet with your co-coaches and returning debaters and Boston Debate League program manager to develop a recruitment plan. We especially recommend, if you have returning debaters, to get them heavily involved because they're going to be your best recruiters. The week of September 12th is a good time to hold a recruitment party. Get, Boston Debate League staff and or returning debaters involved in helping run that. Play some games, have some pizza, invites that other people send out can be inviting them not just to join the debate team, but invite them to a specific event so that all your new people are coming at once and, getting excited right away. And then September 19th, you can start to hold regular practices. And we also link to our season calendar here, so you have a sense of how that plays into the timeline for the season. If you start practicing September 19th, you still have a full month before the first high school tournament and 6 weeks before the first middle school tournament. So it's a good amount of time to be able to get students ready to go. All right. And that brings me to the end of the presentation. So I'm gonna just stop sharing my screen here and just ask what questions people might have about recruitment. And then I will send out the exit ticket in the chat in just a second here.
How should we facilitate the visit with our directors or Boston Debate League, affiliates, in terms of scheduling that with our administration or figuring out what kind of a soft handoff we sort of go about doing?
Yeah, so you mean specifically for like how to get the Boston Debate League staff involved?
How to get everything kind of rolling so that it's succinct as a new club, and just what procedurally, just sort of dotting our I's, crossing our T's, as we gear up for student engagement.
Yeah, so as you're at a new school, we'll prioritize getting a meeting on the books with you, the coach and co-coaches, and like Melissa there, and an administrator at the school probably within the next week or 2 is the aim, and we'll kind of lay out what the debate season looks like and suggest a timeline from there. And then right in that very first kickoff meeting, we will set, a sort of plan for when we would meet again for visits or other planning purposes. So, and if you already have a sense of when would work well for you, and this goes for all the coaches who are on here, just send us an email and say, hey, we've got some availability this week. We've got some availability next week. Do any of these times work for you for a meeting? We're usually relatively flexible at this time of year. So, again, the program manager portfolio email went out prior, so make sure you target your program manager for that outreach.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Hey, I was just wondering, you probably already said this, but where can I find that the folder that you were just clicking through?
Yes. So I'm gonna put the direct link right in the chat, but then I will also show you where you can find it from our website.
Thank you.
So that's the direct link. And then, I'll share my screen briefly here. So that will be helpful for people watching this on the recording. So this is our so this is our organization's website, I should say, bostondebate.org. Under this section here, My BDL, there are coaching resources. And if we scroll down there, on the very first, we have a whole bunch of things: calendar, lessons, evidence, etc. On the very first line, we have recruitment resources, and that's going to bring you to this folder as well.
Thank you.
But yeah, generally, My BDL coaching resources, or this, kind of file path, is where you're going to find pretty much everything that you'll need for coaching. If you're ever looking for something specific, this should be the first page you look at. Any other questions that folks have? I'm just gonna put the link to the PD exit ticket then in the chat. Other questions while we're here, even if they're not debate related? Jody, I see in the chat, is there additional money for food for recruiting or just our regular budget? That's on a school by school basis, so definitely talk with your program manager. But there are a lot of instances where if a coach has a really good idea for how the money would be well spent and useful, the BDL will say yes. So you absolutely have your regular budget and as much of that as you want to start with. But if you have other ideas as well, and you're thinking it will lead to a lot of recruitment success, we're glad to fund extra support ideas from coaches. So, and a good example of that in the past would be like, hey, we want to save our budget for t-shirts or snacks during the season. We really think an extra $50 or $100 for a pizza party at the start of the year would help our recruitment. Yes, absolutely, we can do that. All right, so I'm just making sure the settings are correct. Responsive, unrestricted, and here we go. I'm sending out the link now. Here it is. Yeah, so if you don't mind, again, 3 questions. One new thing you learned at today's PD. What questions do you still have about recruitment? And what topics would you like to cover in future PDs? That's it. If you can fill that out at some point today, that would be wonderful. I'm also going to put the link for that into the slides that will be shared out after this. So. All right, and at this point, I'm going to stop recording.